Hi diddly ho there, neighborinos. Welcome to WrestleWatch. I'm Ryan.
I am Doug,
How
and
are
I am
you?
here as well.
Yeah, how you doing this week, Doug?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I had a vet bill,
Oh
from
no.
a vet emergency. A dog got into some medication, and he's okay,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but it was a $2,000 bill, so
Oh
not
well,
not not the best.
must have been the good meds then.
Yeah, hopefully he had a good time. That's
Ah,
all I'll say.
you got the zonkies
Uh,
and the zoomies.
pretty much. Yeah, but so it's other than that, it's been an interesting week. I've caught
Yeah.
up on it. It's a week of people getting stabbed in the back, figuratively and literally,
Oh
in the
wow.
world of wrestling.
Oh wow. That was the
I
hot one. Yeah.
Yeah, but overall though, it'll be fun. Are you following the March Madness?
Yeah, no, I'm only wrong on 3 of the Sweet 16 right now, so I feel pretty good right now sitting here. It was like I picked Yale was one of the ones with the Sweet 16, and the thing is that you always pick Ivy in the first round, and the problem is I picked Ivy in the second round on top of that, so that's a little busty for my bracket, a little bit. But it's not. It doesn't look terrible. Clemson was another one that I messed up on. So, yeah, my finals are very homer picks. My final four. Um,
Okay.
I have Maryland, Michigan State, Duke, and I think it's Houston. I think it's my fourth team. I have to remind myself who the fourth team is, but yeah, I have Maryland winning against Duke because of course I do. Of course, and this year it's not crazy to say that. I don't think that
So
could be the final two.
so I don't fill out a bracket. However, what I do follow um the team. Okay, I went to UIC, which is a Division 1 team, but they obviously are not good enough to ever make this tournament.
Hmm.
And they're in the Missouri Valley Conference,
Yeah.
which Drake won.
Yes.
So therefore, I don't follow the tournament that crazy to where I'm like filling out brackets and trying to guess things, but I do try to keep an eye on whoever won my conference and I kind of root for them. So I'm hoping for Drake.
Oh, I have Tennessee as the other team in the final four, not Houston. But yeah, Drake. I picked Drake to beat Missouri, and they did. So
Yep.
makes sense. I mean, it's Missouri versus Missouri Valley. Like you have an entire valley, not just a state. Like
Yes.
that's more power right
Yeah,
there.
that makes sense to me.
I like when people pick based off of the mascots and who could win in a fight.
I don't. Oh, well, here then my team should do well because I'm UIC, University of Illinois Chicago. They are the Flames, like the Chicago Fire.
Yeah,
So I'm
but then if like they go up against Tulane, Green Wave, it's over for the Flames.
okay. That's valid.
Yeah. I think that's the only team I can think of off
What
the top
is
of my head.
what is Drake's mascot?
I think they're the Bulldog. If I
Okay, I think a Fire would take out a Bulldog.
a Bulldog could yeah, they're a Bulldog. Yeah, I mean Bulldog could stamp out a fire. Also, it depends on the size of the flame. If it's just a flame, not a fire, a singular flame, I think a
The,
Bulldog could be a
the,
flame.
they're the UIC Flames,
Oh, flames
plural,
plural? Oh, plural?
plural.
Oh, well, that's hard. I
Yeah.
mean, in the first round, Liberty University, which should not be it should not exist as an institution, but that's another conversation. Their mascot is the Flames, also, and they lost to Oregon, who are the Ducks. And I would say a duck can beat Flames because they can fly away.
Yes, and they can go just sit in the middle of a pond.
Yeah, or they can like use their wings to like make it go out. Fan the
Yeah,
flame down. Yeah.
or they can fan it up. It can
Yeah,
backfire.
yeah, but yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Maryland is a terrapin,
Okay.
which is a fierce turtle because it can probably kill you with its jaw, but it's a turtle though at the same time.
Is it
So,
is it a turtle or a tortoise?
a terrapin is a animal. It's a turtle. Yeah, it's a turtle.
Okay.
And also that's why we would play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the stands. So that means, of course, that essentially our mascot are mutant turtles that can fight ninja. Really, when you think about it.
That's a valid Okay, you know what? Yeah. So did they ever determine what is like the most powerful mascot?
No, I don't think so. But like a blue devil feels pretty bad because it's like like, but it's plural devils. It's not the devil, right? So that's not that
Right.
not that impressive. You know, it's just like a bunch of devils. Like there can't. There's only one devil. Um,
That might be the only mascot where the singular is more
more potent.
intimidating than
Yeah.
the plural.
Yeah, I think that Illini depends on how you define it, you know, for Illinois. Because it's like, do you
Yeah.
have the entire state or the tribe? You know, if it's the entire state, that's a lot of people you have to face.
See, that's the other team that I should kind of support because UIC and U of I are the same university system.
Hmm.
But then at the same, but it's like it's one of those things where like U of I is obviously the more prestigious school. You know, that's the school. When you think of University of Illinois, that's what you're thinking of. You're thinking of University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. You're not thinking of University of Illinois at Chicago.
Hmm.
And so I think there's a part of me that's like has a little inferiority complex about that. You know what I'm saying?
TC in the chat says, what percentage of mascots in the tourney do you think you could take one on one?
I am a terrible fighter.
Oh
I do
no.
not claim to be good at anything
Yeah.
in terms of combat. So I'm gonna guess that I would get beaten by a duck.
Oh wow. That's pretty low percentage
I
then.
listen, I set the bar low so I can
Yeah.
clear it.
I definitely would not beat a Spartan. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I think UC San Diego is the Tritons. Or the Tridents, I think it's either the god or the weapon of the god, and if it's the weapon, I could probably win.
Yeah.
I could
Let's be
get
honest.
a new weapon, you know.
If I was having a fight with a duck, I could not kill the duck. The duck would fly away.
That's fair. Yeah, but the duck win or did the duck leave? You won because the duck left. The duck
Maybe
quit.
it's like WWE escape the cage rules.
Oh no, oh, no! You could win by Roman Reigns coming up behind you. So let's get on with WrestleWatch. How about that?
Yeah. Speaking of Roman Reigns, okay.
So this week's episode, we're going to be looking at WWE has some trials going on in Europe. We're going to talk about those. We're going to do heat checks on Sami Zayn, Hikuleo, and the New Day. So first off, here is the tier list as it stood at the end of last week. If you're here on YouTube, you can see it. If you're not here on YouTube, you can't see it because you're listening to it on a podcast. Welcome to your ears. We're not going to describe it though right now. You can listen to last week's episode or go online to our social media to see what the tier list looked like last week. We will be going through the tier list at the end of the day for who is new, what's going on, and all that jazz. So first off, we're going to talk about the WWE European tryouts, in particular one Zozaya, who is a name that you've heard of, Doug, but I don't know if you're familiar with.
I'm not horribly familiar with him. I mean, I have I've not been paying attention to the British Indies really since the whole speaking out thing that closely. And as I say this as someone who used to follow it very, very closely.
Mm-hmm.
In 2019, I flew to London twice in a year to go see wrestling over in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And then that eventually stopped with COVID. And then I just kind of completely fell out of the UK scene. However, I do jump in and parachute in for, the big shows around All In. I always watch the Rev Pro and things like that. I do watch the Eve when they have a big show every now and then. So I've seen him a little bit, but I feel like I haven't seen him enough to actually form a super strong opinion. But I do know him, and I know he looks very impressive, and I know he absolutely is the kind of guy that I could see any company being interested in, just from a visual standpoint.
So Zozaya, he's from Spain. One of his biggest advocates is actually Axiom, who is in the NXT right now in WWE. He started off in Spain and doing random indie work in the UK. In April of 2024, so just around a year ago, he had a match in a collaborative show in Spain with Michael Oku, which went 20 minutes and he beat Oku. He did a return appearance in Rev Pro for his first proper Rev Pro date in April of last year, which was a valiant loss to Michael Oku himself. And then from there, he's pretty much been staying doing work with Rev Pro in particular, in specialty. Has been Rev Pro has been kind of his home promotion. He started to do Progress as well. Had a fun three-way against Man Like Darius and Gene Money. Shout out to Gene Money. He's a good boy. His gimmick is that he's a dog. And he also
Listen, we had Julian Pace, whose gimmick was he's a car. So who are we to say anything?
but yeah, Gene's he's a real good boy, and I love Gene Money. Shout out to him. He also had a match against Leon Slater that I adored. It was the match of the night for me at Riot Cabaret. I've seen him multiple days in a row, even perform live in front of my eyes. He had a good match against El Phantasmo also in Rev Pro. And then this year he got featured a little bit by doing dates in Noah over in Japan as part of Rev Pro's partnership with them. Did some matches with Anthony Green, for example. He did a few tag teams with Anthony Green. He also was featured in a match, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was the Rev Pro Global Wars in October, where he teamed with Leon Slater and Hiroshi Tanahashi in a tag match against Connor Mills, Jay Joshua, and Gabe Kidd. So if everybody remembers back to October when we started getting some rumors about Leon Slater might be getting some eyeballs on him, the other party in that match was Zozaya on that team with Tanahashi. So
Okay.
he's getting eyeballs from very high echelons now, and he's only really been well known, I would say, for about a year. Now he's doing matches in Germany, in Japan, in the UK. He hasn't really done anything in the US yet. But right now and he had a match a few weeks ago against Hechizero, I believe, in Rev Pro as well, which is another fun one. So he's getting eyeballs from Mexico as well. So he is, I would say, one of the most notable names on the UK Indies, one of the hottest prospects on the UK Indies as it stands right now. I would say that he's up there with the likes of Luke Jacobs, Michael Oku, or a little bit above him. But I would say Ricky Knight Jr. is somebody that's similar of like notoriety of eyeballs looking at him. There are other names out there like Tate Mayfair's too, but I think that Zozaya has gotten super hot in the last year, and I've been, banging the drum since August, since All In weekend, that this is a guy that we should be looking at here on WrestleWatch, and I think that just because he's essentially a random UK indie name that not a lot of people have seen live. It didn't get as much of traction here amongst the WrestleWatch committee and community. And now we are hearing that he was used as an extra by WWE at their SmackDown show in Barcelona, and Fightful reports as Zozaya will be participating in the European tryouts late. I think it's this coming week. Yeah, in the UK, they're doing the tryouts. So, Doug, when you hear all of this, what are your thoughts about what's happening with him, and just I suppose generally with WWE tryouts as a whole as a concept? It's another thing there.
I think it's another example of, we're not exactly sure what constitutes being signed in WWE is in one sense, because when you take a look at what's been happening recently, especially with WWE ID and what you see with, people getting used in tryouts, because I think one thing we could say is like a lot of people get tryouts and it doesn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Or a lot of people will get used on a house show tour, especially when they're like in the region. And that doesn't necessarily go anywhere. I mean, Kylie Ray, did she go back? Because remember when she worked that one WWE house show in Chicago and she went by like Brianna Ray or something like that. That was like last year.
Yeah,
And
but that was before the
yes.
ID. Yeah.
Right. And my point though is, and then nothing really came of it. And then the WWE ID came. And so it's like, once again, it's like, how much is this them just using him because he was available?
Oh,
And
I do see here. That was 2022 that happened in Milwaukee.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then nothing really happened from that. So I think there's a little bit of, you know, it could happen, it could not happen with that. I mean, it says that they're aware of him for sure.
Mhm.
Having said that, I do think that based off of what we're hearing, it sounds like people are definitely interested in him. He has the look and he has the work rate to kind of back it up. Why someone would want him? Why they would want him? He's got a kid in his, I'm sorry, Axiom in his corner, and, and then so based off of that alone, I think at minimum you'd go toss up, but I would probably go lean jump just because I think that there is enough there to make me think that they would want to pull the trigger on him.
Mhm.
So there's nothing solid that would make me kind of go higher than that, but I would go lean jump.
Yeah, it's a fun thing that here in the comments TC mentioned was that that appearance in Germany was part of the 16 karat gold tournament. He didn't compete in the tournament proper, oddly enough, but he did have a tag match that featured him on the same side as Psycho Mike, and the other side was included Michael Oku and Psycho Clown, which I'm sure was quite the finger point Spider-Man thing because
Well,
two psychos on two sides.
quite the
Yeah.
psychotic match.
Yeah, that tournament has an interesting lineup. As Axel Tisha was in it, Masha Slamovich, Kara Noir, Michael Oku, Psycho Clown, One Card Manders, Leon Slater. That's a interesting tournament.
Yeah, it's always been like one of the premier tournaments of the year in terms of like, I remember what was the year that like Bandito went nuts in it. That would have been that might have been like the year right after COVID.
Yeah, that was the year of COVID, 2020.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember he had a great year in that thing. So
yeah.
every now and then it's like, I try to keep an eye and pay attention to that tournament because there's always at least a few matches in there that you need to keep an eye on if you want to have a complete match of the year list
Hmm.
where you feel like if you're someone who tries to like watch everything that's exceptional,
Yeah.
because it's hard to watch everything, but you always want to keep your, ear to the ground. If you hear something exceptional, I usually try to go out of my way to watch it.
Hmm.
And usually I end up watching a few carrot matches every year.
So yeah, as you were saying, yeah, we don't know where it will go because also it's interesting seeing what's going on with WWE with their structure. Um, I don't think that they're going to ID people in the UK. That's my hunch. I think that even though the amount of money that they're doing right now, 40K as the stipend to WWE people is I think at least double, might be quadruple how much they were giving to the people that were doing NXT UK.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, they were getting pretty bad pay. They were not getting it guaranteed, and then when they got cut at the end of NXT UK, it was like the people who I know, and I'm not gonna name names, um, who I know personally and were in NXT UK. At the end of it, when essentially the doors were shut but the lights were still running, like they weren't actually performing anymore. They kind of liked that because they were getting a stipend and not having to do any work for WWE, but at the same time WWE could tell them no to bookings.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't like how it ended because of the combination of things. Like there was good and bad with how it ended. That was like personal good and bad, but like overall, there is a very um rancid taste in the mouth of a bunch of people in the UK indies about how NXT UK went, and also just in general how NXT UK went, but then also how it ended. So I think people that are in the UK indies who were not around when NXT UK was a thing will have a slightly different look about WWE tryouts right now. And I think Zozaya is one of those people. He did not get into the UK indie scene until a year ago by now. He has connections to people that are already in WWE. So I don't think that he's somebody that has a negative experience. Also, as I was saying, I don't think that with a tryout that it's going to be you're going to get an ID deal, which is essentially how it went with NXT UK. That was like prototype ID program. It'll probably be them actually signing a NXT level contract and going to America. Um, so it is a little bit different. It's a step up. There are certain names that I've heard bandied about for a while now as possibly going to try out. We've seen reports about Riho, not to be confused with Riho, um, possibly getting an eye from WWE. Man like Darius was another one that has had some rumors about WWE being interested in him. I haven't heard whether or not either of them will be at the tryouts, but I wouldn't be surprised. Um, I wouldn't be surprised by Ricky Knight Jr. being there. He has been gunning to get a big contract or to get signed by one of the major promotions, and I think that with this probably being Soraya's last year in AEW, I'm presuming that she's not gonna re-sign with them. She might just retire from wrestling at this point. It seems like it's a possibility as well. I think that opens a door for Ricky a little bit about not going where the family is right now. I think his cousin, I believe, is the relation. Also, he ended with AEW. His contract ran out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this is going to be an interesting time to see the division of the old guard UK indie people, which are the people that were around in the UK indies when NXT UK existed, when Speaking Out happened, when the indies died essentially on the UK side of things, and now they're back and pretty strong right now, I would say.
Relatively.
Yeah, they're not at the strength that they were in like 2017.
Mm-hmm.
But they are the strongest they've been since then. Progress is doing a lot of good stuff. Rev Pro is going to be doing a 2-night event for their anniversary show this year. Riot Cabaret has been a lot of fun. North Attack are doing pretty well business and being able to do shows throughout the UK right now. And then there's Over the Top over in Ireland is doing pretty well with how they're getting they're somehow able to get WWE people to appear there, you know?
Yeah.
So
I mean, OTT
yeah.
for the longest time. I mean, they were, one of the premier indie promotions in the world. You could argue the premier.
Yeah.
Maybe around like what 2018, probably around 20. That's the same time, 2017, 2018. Like you were gonna get the stuff that you would get out of OTT was just absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, a lot of the stuff involves people that shall remain nameless now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so it is interesting also this is all coming at the same time. These tryouts are happening at the same time. That I know this is getting a little off topic of Zozaya in particular, but we just heard announced as part of WWE's counter programming push of AEW this year, which according to Sharon Ross Sapp is architected by Nick Khan. They are going to. So this was something that was kind of rumored back when they announced that they're going to do Bash in Paris a week or two after All In. It was a week after All In. Excuse me. Forbidden Door this year. Forbidden Door this year is in London, and a week afterwards is Bash in Paris for WWE. Everybody was like, "Oh, we know what's going to happen here. They're going to do a week of shows in the UK right beforehand, right?" And people were like, "Oh, no, it's totally different. It's fine. It's so far away. Paris and London, so far away, like a 5-hour train ride, so far away." And of course, now this week it was announced that they're going to be doing a week of house shows in the UK, including a Raw and a SmackDown in Dublin, and then a Raw in Birmingham. A week of house shows that will be overlapping, with one of which will be on the same date as Forbidden Door in London. The UK is a small place. I think that American audiences might not be aware of how small the UK is. It's like a couple, like an hour or two train ride from London to get to Cardiff. Um, it's like a 5 hour train ride to get up into Scotland. It's like not that far away of a distance, anything in the UK. Um, and so as part of this counter programming, essentially they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna run a house show on the same day. We're gonna do a Raw the day after. We're gonna see if we can start to depress sales for Forbidden Door. And the collateral damage, of course, is all of the indie promotions scheduled a year ago, all of their dates for 2024 to be around that bank holiday week and centered around London and centered around Forbidden Door. So now all these indie promotions who are, um, kind of being buddy buddy this tour of WWE in Europe about like, oh yeah, we have some suggested names of people that could be good for extras. Like Zozaya is one of those people. I know a few people who are doing extra work throughout Europe, and I'm not going to name names for it, but um, they got suggested for it by doing work on the UK Indies, and now WWE, while they're over there in Europe and about to do tryouts, are like, it's even better than you trying out for WWE, us trying to kill the indies that recommended you. It's
Time is a flat circle.
time is a flat circle. So like I think that it was collateral damage more than it was an obvious thing that WWE were trying to hurt these indie dates. Because there's going to be indie shows, I think, from Wednesday through Monday of that week. I know Progress is on Monday of that week, which is the same day as the Birmingham Raw. Um, but it is like bad optics, I would say, for WWE to be announcing that and then the next week be trying to do tryouts in the UK.
We'll see. I've said this before, and maybe it's a controversial opinion, but I don't think a lot of the counter programming has as big of impact on AEW that people think. I don't think if WWE wasn't running, I don't know that there's going to be that many more people going to AEW shows or buying AEW pay-per-views. I think they still do what they do. I think the people that are going to watch AEW are going to watch AEW or go to AEW. I do think the indie promotions may be hurt more. I
Yeah.
think that's but I feel like a lot of this is just, if anything, I think all it does is draw more attention to the fact that AEW is running. So if I was running WWE, I could be wrong, but I gotta think this isn't hurting AEW as much as they think it is.
I think that they shouldn't be calling attention to AEW existing.
Exactly. I think that's absolutely what they're doing.
Yeah. As DC says, it basically every major WWE show announced corresponds with a major AEW show. Yeah, everything that's so if you look at the calendar right now for WWE, and they have a show, listed for every single week. And then when they stop having shows announced, it's like around the mid-May right now, and then there's a gap in their schedule. The shows that are announced after that gap, every single one of them is on the same date or weekend as an AEW pay-per-view. You have, and so they're doing the same thing that they did a couple of years ago with Black and Gold. They're just sacrificing NXT pay-per-views to AEW counter program initiative, which I think that there could be I think for the casual AEW fan, which there are people that are casually known as AEW, and I think that a lot of them got out for Revolution with how they put it on Amazon Prime. I think that they did source some casual fans from putting the pay-per-view on Amazon Prime. If they see, oh yeah, AEW has a pay-per-view today, oh, I could watch the free WWE one, and they're marketing them, of course, this is another part of this, is that they don't say that it's NXT Deadline, they say it's WWE Deadline, and they trick people into watching it. Which, it's kind of sad, because, NXT is actually, I think, as match quality goes, kind of better than main roster right now, but it's a more enjoyable show, I think, to watch an NXT PLE than it is a main roster one right now. It's not as much spectacle, but if you're actually into wrestling, then you're gonna have a better time.
And I'll just say this, and then we can
move on.
We can move on, but I'll say this. I think it's important. I want to emphasize, I just don't think that someone who had it in their mind that they were going to pay, $50 for an AEW pay-per-view, suddenly finds out that there's an NXT show on the same day, and not even necessarily at the same time, because a lot of times it's not the same time,
Yeah.
but it's on the same day. They're not suddenly going to go, oh, you know what? I'll just watch NXT and not spend the money for AEW. There may be, I'm sure there's some, but I don't think it's a significant amount. I think the people that are ready to plop down money for an AEW pay-per-view are gonna do that.
Yeah,
So I think the counter programming is not doing what people think. And I think that ultimately when you look at like what Revolution had done with pay-per-view numbers, these the biggest number they've done in a while. I don't think the counter programming is doing anything.
yeah, I think that TC says AEW business has been coming up recently. Wonder if that has WWE spooked. Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. Is that WWE are spooked by AEW being having upward momentum right now?
Yeah.
And
Well, and I
so,
think and the important thing is why that spooks them. And it's not necessarily because they think they're going to catch up. I think ultimately this is just it's another thing that's going to hurt their labor negotiations
yeah,
between talent, which is once again something very important we talk about on this show. And it's also going to hurt their negotiations with
cities
Netflix
too.
and yeah, that's as well. But with Netflix and Comcast and any other promotion that they're media
Yeah,
partner they're working with, because they're going to say, well, why am I paying you this much when I could pay this much for this promotion? So
yeah.
they're AEW's existence is dragging down the media value of WWE as well. The stronger it is.
Yeah, I mean, like what's coming up right now is about UFC media rights, and a lot of companies are balking at what TKO is asking for because they want, and this is the deal that ESPN has, and why ESPN is kind of passing is that they want for every pay per view an upfront guarantee from ESPN to buy the pay per view. They're not getting a split of the revenue from the pay per view. So that means as business has been going down for UFC or for pay per views, it's going fine for tickets, but not for pay per view buys. Also, they've upped the price of the pay per views. It means that ESPN is starting to lose money on UFC.
Yeah. And then and it goes for wrestling too. You know, consumer revenue is not the driver of the growth in these companies anymore. It's
Yeah,
all business to business. So the idea is like, well, ticket sales are going up. It's the same argument. Well, like someone pushes merch or someone gets something tangible like that. They sell something else. These are not things that are important anymore. If someone, it doesn't matter if you're like the best merch mover, bottom line is if you're not making the company more valuable in terms of media rights, you're not that important. WWE could give away every single ticket from now until the next year, and they'd still probably have one of the most profitable years in the history of the company.
yeah.
That's how little ticket sales matter anymore.
But yeah, it sounds like that they're essentially going to just sacrifice NXT for trying to do that. So, as far as Zozaya, where do you think you should go?
Lean jump.
I'm gonna go toss up,
All
and
right.
I think why is just because I think that there's the possibility that the tryout doesn't go in the direction of him signing. I just think that there's a possibility of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the name being out there early means that I think that it's toss up or up on odds.
So, and then what did the committee decide?
Go toss up for now.
I think that's totally fair.
Yeah. Next up, we wanted to just do an update on Sami Zayn. We have him as a lean stay. It has been reported by Fightful that he had asked for some time off. We don't know if that has anything to do with his contract, or some people were speculating about Ramadan and that they're doing a European tour at the same time. So maybe he wanted to, because you have to fast and everything like that. It's more house shows when you're fasting is not fun. So there's some speculation, but there's no solid thing of why he asked for time off. But he has time off right now. Um, it he was also announced for a roast show at WWE at WrestleMania for Vegas. They're doing so many random shows in addition to the actual wrestling shows this year for WrestleMania. Like, what was it? $25,000 ticket to have brunch with John Cena.
Yeah.
Um, they're just gouging every single way that they can the people that are getting in there because the ticket sales for the show themselves itself is not doing hot. So need to scrounge up as much money and wrangle out as much money out of the people that are going to be there. And
I
maybe
wonder how much I wonder how much of that has to do with international travelers not wanting to come to the United States right now.
I think it's just that it's in Vegas and that they overpriced the tickets. I think those are the two reasons. Vegas, as we've said many times before about AEW, is not a good wrestling market. And if you're trying to make it a destination show, Vegas is increasingly way too expensive to use as a destination because it is so much so a bubble. You can't like it's not like Miami where like you could like I'll stay over in Fort Lauderdale or something and drive over or something like that. It's like Vegas is it. There is nothing else outside of it except for desert.
Yeah, you got to fly in.
You have to fly in. You have to stay on the strip because there's not really good public transportation there either. So, like, you have to stay on the strip at a strip hotel probably. So it's going to be very expensive to go there. That's also why I think that GCW is doing so many WWE tie-ins this time with the collective is not just because you're kind of buddy buddy with WWE, but I think it's because they realize that one of the ways to drive people to the shows this year is because there's not a lot of just lay people just hanging around in Philadelphia that might just go to GCW and not go to WrestleMania. This time it's like, no, you're going to have to attract people with the WWE brand, unfortunately for GCW. And so they know that, and they're doing that. That's how they're structuring the collective this year, it seems. So anyway, Sami Zayn is announced for one of these shows. It's a roast show. There's a comedian on it, Tony Hinchcliffe, that has caused controversy with some people for him being included on this for past political comments that he's made. So anyway, point is, he's on this show. Do you think that that means that he's staying at WWE? Do you think that it means that he is finishing out a contract? Do you think that it means anything?
I mean, I think it's a sign that he's probably sticking around a little bit longer. I always kind of was of the opinion that it's more than likely he's staying. To me, this is just a little more evidence that he's probably sticking around and not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I think that I think once Kevin Owens resigned, I thought it was like, he's probably going to stick around. I could be wrong, but I think I'm more confident than I was before that he is sticking around. So I went likely stay.
I went with safe stay because I feel like likely is probably right as I'm sitting here and talking about it right now because we still haven't heard any updates about his contract situation. Um it is intriguing though that he asked for time off at a time that his contract should be expiring, which makes me lean towards safe more. I think that that is the bigger thing than him being on this random show in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Because like it's a random non-canon comedy show that they're not filming.
I wouldn't film it either if I
Yeah,
was them.
SRS was like they should burn the tape.
Yeah.
If anybody tries to film that thing, they should burn the tape because if you have people like Tony Hinchcliffe and Braun Strowman as part of your like it's obvious why they have Sami Zayn on it because he's an accomplished talker and comedian on his own right. Um Everybody else that I see on that I'm like I am worried about what is going to be said here in a way that I don't think is good for anybody.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
in a fun way.
listen, we had Andrew Tate at the UFC show recently. I mean, this company can go and it could go some pretty nasty directions.
We know what they want to do.
Yeah.
They're going back to the 90s playbook of how they were doing things is the way I'll put it.
Mm-hmm.
So Oh, and just a comment here from TC just about Vegas. Yeah, it's not a good sports town. I would say that it is for hockey, and that's it, which is funny. It's very expensive to run shows there. It's why ROH said, nah, we're good. I think it's a combination of, I think that the expense to do the shows there is the out that Tony Khan got to saying, okay, maybe Supercard won't be during Mania in the future.
Yeah, but here's the thing with hockey. Like hockey is a more affluent sport, first of all,
Yeah.
as we know, and I think it's also a situation where there there are markets where it is cheaper to fly to Vegas to watch your home team.
Yes. Like,
And
yeah, yeah. I was thinking about snowbirds with that. Like, if you're
yeah,
out in Alberta or Manitoba, you can fly down to Vegas very quickly, and they do it already. It's not just about hockey; they would do it anyway.
yeah. So like I know like for in Chicago, Blackhawks, for example, uh, they've not as much recently, but for a while there, it was a lot cheaper to just fly and watch them elsewhere and
Yeah,
as an away game. And I think that when have the option to also throw in a Vegas trip to it, it makes a lot of sense.
yeah. I'm happy that I'm not a Washington Capitals fan because it is way too expensive to go to their games.
Yeah,
Um, but anyway, Sami Zayn is gonna go safe stay.
that's fine.
Okay. And then we're just gonna do some heat check quick hits. Hikuleo. It was announced now. Well, it's not announced. It was reported by Sean Ross Sapp that he is signed to WWE, and that for some reason I think that it was Meltzer said in the Observer that they've kind of pivoted from what they were planning on doing with him. Originally, they were going to have him be in NXT, and now they're not going to have him go to NXT, and they might just have him go straight to main roster. It sounds like they don't know what they're doing with him, and that they just signed him because, one, he was part of the bloodline, and two, to take somebody away from the AEW New Japan ecosystem.
Yeah, I think keeping him at safe jump is right, but I do think it would be. Would you be stunned
Mhm.
if we find out that he is signed,
Yeah.
and then the reason we find out he's signed is because we find out that he's cut?
I would not be surprised by that at this point. It's
Yeah.
been a year, essentially.
I
Um,
think that's a very real possibility.
yeah, as TC points out, the new bloodline wasn't as hot as they expected. That is the big problem, was that the bloodline period. Here's the hot take for the week. The bloodline is pretty mid as a storyline, except for when Sami Zayn was a part of it.
I listen, and I said this before, I'll stand by it. I think Cody winning last year was a mistake. I think Roman should still be the champ right now, and this should have been the year that Cody won. I think they could have got another year out of that.
I think that the problem wasn't as much Cody winning as much as they didn't know where they were going with the new bloodline.
I
Um,
think that's part of it. Yeah.
like it should have been something that they should have been building Solo Sikoa over the course of this year to challenge Cody at Mania this year. He shouldn't have been challenging Cody every other month. You know, that devalued Solo Sikoa very quickly.
Yeah.
And then
I
when
don't
they
know.
then they brought in Guerrillas of Destiny, and they didn't do their homework on one of them. And then Jacob Fatu turned out to be what we all knew, which was a really great performer. And so now they're like kind of pivoting to now Jacob Fatu is kind of on his own as his own act. And he's getting very hot, and he probably will win a title very soon. But it's like, yeah, the new bloodline just fell apart. And it's because they didn't know they didn't commit to where they should have been going on a year-long cycle. They got too happy about shiny toys of old nostalgia acts, I think. But I wouldn't be surprised what you were saying of Hikuleo. The way that we find out is that he gets released.
Yeah, that's true. And then the next one is the New Day, essentially. We're
Yeah,
looking at Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. I think we could just talk about them together, right?
yeah. If they had, we're in the era now of their contracts where if they had injury time, it's possible that at any point their contracts would expire. They had a 5-year deal they signed in 2019 that would be expiring, would have expired in December. We know with Big E that they didn't add the injury time for his neck injury, but they did add injury time otherwise for them. They are currently doing a heel act countering LWO. So there isn't a lot of updates about their contract. They are being used though, so that's why I think that Safe Stay is a good place to put them, because we don't know what's going on in their contract. It hasn't been updated, but at the same time they are being used. So it's out of the realm that they would stay.
I think they're just sitting around waiting to see what happens with Big E.
Yeah.
Whether they are re-signed or not, I think they're just, even if they're just working like without a contract, I don't think they're going anywhere.
Yeah, and also, it's a slight error on the screen. They previously were in likely stay, for the record, and we dropped them down to safe stay. But I don't think that that's controversial of a thing to have done.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think that's fine.
Um,
so
yeah.
So here, let's go through the updated tracker, and then I just want to mention one person
Okay.
that I didn't think he was important enough to bring up this week, but I just want to talk about it because it's Magnificent Seven related.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah.
Finally.
So I'm gonna run through the chart here. So for safe jump, we now have Hikuleo, Josh Alexander, and Ray Phoenix. Once again, for the billionth time, feels like he is rumored to have signed.
Yeah, it sounds like SRS is saying now more definitively that he has signed.
He's for real signed this time.
Yeah, it's real this time. But we'll see him. I would guess that it's either he's gonna show up in London or the first show back in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. And then for likely jump, we have Malachi Black and Nikki Bella. Lean jump, we have Ninja Mac, Dee Priestley, Miro, and Jeff Cobb.
One note there is Ninja Mac is on the card for the Junior Genesis show of Sakura Genesis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Return of the Mac, friend of the show.
Yes. And then the toss-up, we have Michael Oku, Bishop Dyer, the former Baron Corbin, Cedric Alexander, Good Brothers, Kevin Knight, and Zozaya. Lean stay is Joe Hendry, Samantha Irvin, Matt Cardona, Mina Shirakawa. Likely stay, AJ Styles, Mayu Iwatani, Danhausen, Alex Windsor, Beth Phoenix, Gabe Kidd, Indy Hartwell, Leon Slater, and Persephone. AJ Styles is the one I want to talk about, but I'll come back to him in a second.
Ooh, okay.
And then we have, for safe stay, we have Sari, Utami Hayashishita, Street Profit, Shinsuke Nakamura, Tam Nakano, Nixon Newell, Sami Zayn, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods.
I just wanted to say that if people have not seen Shuri versus Sari, you need to watch that match.
It is currently my match of the year.
It is my number 2 behind the Grand Slam tag match. It is like, there's some people that were talking about the headbutts. I don't think that they were as shoot as people are saying they are.
Yeah.
And that match was, I think that Sari is one of the best storytellers in wrestling with how she lays out a match right now. I think that she is on par with like a Zack Sabre Jr. in laying out matches right now.
I would also, if we're sticking with Joshi too, I think I'd also give, I think a really underrated storyteller in the ring and someone with their facial expressions is Sariano.
Yeah.
She's another one.
Yeah, she's been having a good year so far.
Yeah. So let me talk AJ Styles.
Okay. Hot set.
So once again, we've spent, I feel like maybe 9 months of Will Ospreay doing the Styles Clash in all his matches.
Yeah, it's actually we're coming up on now. It's been a year of Will Ospreay in AEW proper.
Yes, and not to say that Styles Clash was part of his.
It was part of his moveset anyway. Yeah, but
yeah, but it feels like he's doing it for a reason more so than ever before.
Yeah, he's been leveling it up as a not just a signature move, but sometimes a finisher.
Yeah. On top of that, we have the Young Bucks now posting uh Styles Clash stuff on their Instagram and things
Yes.
like that. So, and then it's just a weird situation around AJ with his injury and everything like that, where it really it does feel like this is like more so than before. It feels like this was a guy that maybe was out the door.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that I feel like we need to change anything with him because once again, because he's injured, I don't know how long he's going to be, how long his contract is going now. I have no idea,
That's the
but it
point.
feels like it's probably going to go for a while because he's probably not coming back for quite a bit, right?
I think you're slightly wrong on that part of things
Okay.
because he's he wrestled Gunter on a house show in a steel cage match twice in 2 days this past week.
Well, I mean, sorry, I misspoke, but I mean he's probably under contract for a while. Like he's not.
He had around 3 months of quote unquote injury time after the Carmelo Hayes match where he got injured in October. Then he reappeared at the Royal Rumble. So it's possible that he has an added 3 months. Um,
Okay.
so I can try to check the. Yeah, we had originally his contract was supposed to expire in December.
Right.
So if he has an added 3 months, then his contract would be expiring around now. Depended on other injury times that might have happened over the time of his contract.
I feel like he has more time. Like I'd have to go back and look at this because I feel like that's my point. I didn't mean like it's going to be a while before he comes back like wrestling. I mean it's going to be a while before we see him come back on the tier list as someone to talk about. But I could be
Oh,
wrong.
okay, that's what you meant. Okay.
Yeah, I could be wrong in the sense that um when I'm thinking about this, it's like I know because he's someone who's not really had like long injury time ever.
No, and his contract was signed in. It looks like it was late 2021. It was a 3-year deal. So if you're looking at the period of time of trying to game out if he had any injuries, it would be from December 2021 through today.
Yeah. And I know that he always talks about like, he always sounds very, very, fed pilled when he talks.
He
But
seems
it's
like he's
also
also like he looks like he's trying to get towards retirement
yeah, but
happily, you
he's
know.
also someone who just like he's very good at just like saying whatever he needs to say to
Hmm.
like tell whatever story he's trying to tell. Even when but he's someone who's very, very smart about using leverage. When he originally went to WWE, he went and talked to Dixie Carter.
Yeah.
And then look at that where he ended up because they offered him like NXT before he even went to New Japan and he turned that down. And then after he went to New Japan, he ended up in this he got a really good deal to go to WWE direct to main roster at a time when that just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I think that I think maybe we'll have to have a discussion over or have a think on this over the next week or so because he might be someone that we need to start thinking about again.
So, I did some digging here while you were talking. He had like broken an ankle, it looks like, in late 2022. And he was out
Mm-hmm.
for a couple months, maybe 5 months. So, and then he had the recent injury, which might not have even really been an injury. We don't like it feels like it might not have actually been. Um, between the that SmackDown in October and Royal Rumble, which was around 4 months. So it's possible. I would say at most he has 9 months of injury time on his contract.
Okay.
That is my guesstimate on the
9 months
situation.
from him coming back.
No, 9 months from December. So we're looking at August.
Okay.
As at I would say August is the latest that his contract will expire. Is the best phrasing I can say.
Because here's the bottom line, and maybe we'll save this discussion. Maybe we'll preemptively nominate him for next week to have a talk on him. But I do think it's a question. I think it's now time to decide who values him more. Is it AEW or WWE?
Yeah, I think that So this is an interesting thing because we did a this is something that we might actually talk about next week. Is we did a fun thing amongst our group. We did a fantasy draft of sorts, kind of looking at the people that are currently on the tier list. So it's not about like like, oh yeah, I'm gonna pick Roman Reigns to go to AEW or something like that. It's like who are currently people that are currently free agents or could be free agents within the year, and saying having fun with it. And AJ Styles got brought up as one of the names that we think that other promotions definitely would have more interest in having around than WWE would right now.
I think so.
And
I think so too.
yeah, and then Steve Austin hasn't been in talks with TKO in a while, so maybe he'll show up also at All In. We don't know. He's gonna bring his cats, and he's gonna beat up. He's gonna answer the challenge of the best wrestler
cats.
alive.
Solid ass cats.
He is such a good cat dad, and it really makes me like, it warms my heart from all the bad things he's probably done in his life. I'm like, well, he's a nice cat dad now, so that's good.
Anything else you want to talk about?
No, just a reminder that you guys can nominate people for us to discuss here on WrestleWatch each week by subscribing to our Substack, WrestleWatch.substack.com. You can also subscribe to us here on YouTube to get updated whenever we're going live, and on Twitter and Blue Sky just for updates of the random sort. Substack, we're going to have long-form articles, and that is nice and fun to read. Until next time, I am Ryan.
And I am Doug.
Spicy.